Hello everyone, my name is Grace Kim. Do you know about Helen Keller? Usually some people know about Helen Keller. So I want to introduce about Helen Keller's biography. Helen Keller was a great person. Her occupation was an active. She was born on June 27, 1880 in Tuscumbia, Alabama. And she died at June 1, 1968 in Arden Ridge, Easton, Connecticut. Helen Keller was accomplishing much despite being both deaf and blind. She was a very healthy baby. Her father, Arthur, worked for a newspaper while her mother, Kate, took care of the home and baby Helen. She grew up on her family's large farm called Ivy Green. When Helen was around 1.5 years old, she became very sick. She had a high fever and a bad headache for several days. Although Helen survived, her parents soon realized that she had lost both her sight and her hearing. Frustrations. Helen tried to communicate with the people around her, but it was too hard. Helen had special emotions. She would sometimes throw tantrums. When she was angry, she was kicking and hitting other people because of the frustrations. Anyway, I want to introduce about Helen's forever friend, Annie Sullivan. Helen's parents realized that Helen needed some special help. They contacted the Perkins Institute for the Blind located in Boston. They suggested a former student named Annie Sullivan. Annie had been blind, but she had her eyesight restored by her surgery. It's a unique experience that would allow to help Helen in her condition. Annie and Helen worked together on March 3, 1887, and Annie would be her helper and companion for the next 50 years. Learning words. Annie began to teach Helen words. She would press the letter of words into Helen's hand. For example, she would put a ball in one of Helen's hands and press the letters of the word D-O-L-L into the other hand. Helen didn't understand the words at first. One day, Annie put Helen's hand into water and spelled it out, water in her hand. Helen finally understood. That day, Helen learned a number of new words. It was one of the happiest days of her life. Learning to read. Next, Annie taught Helen how to read. She was studying very hard. She must have been very bright. Annie was an amazing teacher. It's because soon Helen could read an entire book in Braille. It is a special reading system where the letters are made out of little bumps on a page. Can you imagine trying to learn how to read if you couldn't see or hear? It's truly amazing what Helen and Annie were able to accomplish. At the age of 10, Helen could read and use a typewriter. Learning to talk. Helen learned how to talk from Sarah Fuller. Sarah was a teacher for the deaf. By resting her hand on Sarah's lips, Helen learned how to feel sound vibrations and how the lips moved to make sounds. She started off learning a few letters and sounds. Then she advanced to words and finally sentences. Helen was so happy that she could say words. If I am blind, I'll be uncomfortable. Helen Keller was so amazing. College. At 16 years old, Helen attended Radcliffe College for Women in Massachusetts. Annie attended school with her and helped to sign the lectures into Helen's hand. Helen graduated from Radcliffe in 1904 with honors. Writing. During college, Helen began to write about her experiences being deaf and blind. She first wrote a number of articles for a magazine called The Ladies' Home Journal. Those articles were later published together in a book called The Story of My Life. A few years later, in 1908, she published another book called The World I Live In. As Helen grew older, she wanted to help other people like herself. She wanted to inspire them and give them hope. Helen spent much of her life working to raise money and awareness for people with disabilities, especially the deaf and the blind. She joined the American Foundation for the Blind and traveled the country giving speeches and raising money for the foundation. Later, during World II, she visited wounded Army soldiers, encouraging them not to give up. Last, I want to introduce about Helen's interesting facts. First, Helen became very famous. She met with every president of the United States from Grover Cleveland to Lyndon Johnson. Second, she loved dogs. They were a great source of joy to her. Third, Helen became friends with famous people such as the inventor of the telephone Alexander Graham Bell and the author Mark Twain. Fourth, she wrote a book titled Teacher about Annie Sullivan's life. I think Helen Keller was one of the persons who changed our mind. She studied very hard, even though she was both deaf and blind. I respect her. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening about Helen Keller. Next time, I'll prepare my speech perfectly. Thank you.